Subscribe to Chug Chow wherever you get your podcasts or visit chugandchow.com.
A big hello to my fellow flavor chasers and road warriors. This is Chug and Chow, the podcast that celebrates the greasy spoons, the dive bars, the mom and pop joints, and the off the beaten path spots that should be on your map. My name is Todd Newton. How are you? I'm the author of Chug and Chow, the Tattooed Traveler's 50 Favorite Dive Bars and Food Joints Across America. That's the book that started it all, my friend. Spent over 2 years, close to 50,000 miles, traveling this great country of ours, experiencing these lesser-known and character-filled establishments. And on this podcast, we spice up your next weekend getaway or road trip with food, drinks, and stories that just hit a little bit different. So I cordially invite you to pull up a seat, bring your appetite, and let's dig into this week's delicious destination, the Irish Pub in Atlantic City, New Jersey. There's a scrappy allure to Atlantic City. One cannot deny its weathered facades and worn edges, nor can you overlook the city's intoxicating blend of nostalgia and tenacity. Atlantic City emerged as a vacation destination after the Camden and Atlantic Railroad opened in 1854, making the Jersey Shore accessible to urban dwellers seeking respite from city life. Today, this coastal retreat sits just an hour's drive from Philadelphia and slightly over 2 hours from New York City, offering an effortless and affordable escape for those looking to trade urban crowds and chaos for sun-drenched beaches and the seductive spin of the roulette wheel. Atlantic City's ascent to becoming the gambling capital of the East Coast began in 1978, just 2 years after a statewide referendum passed allowing casinos exclusively in AC. It should be noted here that this referendum squeaked by with only a narrow margin, and after being rejected in its initial push. Many local officials initially feared gambling would tarnish a city celebrated for sunshine and relaxation. Yet, after Resorts International, the first legal casino, opened its doors, those same officials quickly changed their tune. AC's first legal slot machine, a 1975 Bally Honey Money, remains on display inside Resorts. Though protected behind plexiglass for preservation, this vintage piece of gambling history is fully operational and occasionally emerges for special events. Riding the wave of Resorts International's success, additional casinos sprouted up in rapid succession. Bally's, Caesars, the Trump Taj Mahal, and others collectively employed more than 34,000 people during Atlantic City's golden era. That was the 1980s, 1990s. However, the tide turned in the 2010s when economic hardship washed over the city and competition from newly legalized gambling in neighboring states led to several casino closures. But like the legendary boxers whose names once blazed across hotel marquees, Atlantic City has never stopped swinging. And while the glittering lights of AC may have dimmed a bit, the stubborn magic of its history is still ablaze. The Atlantic City Boardwalk opened on June 26, 1870. Made of specially treated southern pine, robust enough to withstand both the scorching heat of a Jersey summer and the blistering cold of winter, this renowned tourist attraction stretches over 5 miles long and spans 60 feet wide. It holds the distinction of being not only the first boardwalk ever constructed in the world, but also the longest. At its peak, until the 1944 Great Atlantic Hurricane, It extended 7 miles from Atlantic City through Ventnor and Margate all the way to Longport. The boardwalk's creation was initially proposed to city officials by Alexander Boardman, a railroad conductor, and Jacob Keim, who was a hotel owner, as a practical solution to keep sand from being tracked into hotels and onto railroad cars. Well, for nearly 150 years, the Atlantic City Boardwalk has hosted world-class performers and pioneered new forms of amusement. From the diving horses and marathon dance contests on the Steel Pier in the late 1800s to performances by Frank Sinatra, Liberace, George Carlin, Willie Nelson, and even the Price is Right live stage show, Atlantic City has been a rite of passage for entertainers of all kinds. During AC's glory days, Ed Hurst, a well-known radio and television pioneer, once declared, quote, "Until an entertainer performed in Atlantic City, New Jersey, they just haven't made it in show business," end quote. The timeless Boardwalk Hall, which opened in 1929, established itself as a premier venue immediately, hosting extraordinary concerts such as the Beatles, Bruce Springsteen, the first indoor college football game, the first indoor helicopter flight, championship boxing bouts, and perhaps most notably, the Miss America pageant from 1940 to 2004, and again from 2013 to 2019. And on the stage of Atlantic City's unforgettable 500 Club, alleged mob boss Skinny D'Amato paired the unlikely duo of Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis for the very first time, creating entertainment history. Go a little further down the boardwalk, and there once stood a tiny candy store where in 1883, a merchant named David Bradley sold an assortment of sweet treats, including taffy. One night, a storm rolled in and flooded his entire store. The next morning, Bradley opened his stand, as usual, and when a customer asked to purchase some of his taffy, the young businessman jokingly offered her some saltwater taffy, referring to the candy that had been drenched in water from the salty Atlantic Ocean. Although there's no real salt water in saltwater taffy, the name stuck. I've been visiting Atlantic City, New Jersey for well over 20 years as host of the Price is Right live stage show. I've made many friends, many memories. My children, as babies, played in the sand right underneath the Steel Pier. Big Jim, my father, rest his soul, couldn't get enough of the sandwiches at White House Subs, and some of the finest lasagna I've ever tasted was served to me at Chef Vola's. But there is one place that sums up everything I love and miss about Atlantic City, and that is the Irish Pub. As I've stated in my book and on this podcast many times, the Irish Pub in Atlantic City and Captain Tony's Saloon in Key West, Florida, are my favorite watering holes on the planet. The Irish Pub stands as a living testament to AC's vibrant past. Originally opened as the Elwood Hotel in 1903, the building quickly became a local landmark, surviving the tumultuous Prohibition era as a notorious speakeasy. Those walls have witnessed everything from federal raids to the laughter of loyal patrons who fiercely defended their beloved haunt. Over the decades, the pub has hosted celebrities and served as a gathering place for both locals and visitors seeking a taste of old Atlantic City. In 1972, Richard and Cathy Burke purchased the bar space, transforming it into the Irish pub known today. Oh, they did a great job of preserving much of the original charm, including the cherry wood bar and vintage memorabilia, creating an atmosphere that feels both historic and welcoming. The pub's enduring spirit and unique character have made it a cherished institution for over 50 years. It's located on St. James Place, just steps from the boardwalk and not even a block from the beach. And it is my AC home away from home. I cherish my friendship with the Irish pub owner, Cathy Burke, dearly. She is, without question, one of the sweetest individuals I have in my life right now. And Cathy, I'll be back there in October for The Price is Right Live, and you are always my first stop.
I know. Everybody's looking forward to you coming back with the show. Everybody loves the show. God,
It's
that's
just the best.
such a popular show and enduring. That's the word.
We're so fortunate. I mean,
Well,
fortunate.
you know what they say. They say the harder I work, the luckier I get.
Amen, my love. Well, you
Right,
said
Todd?
100%. 100%. Cathy, I gave a brief history of the Irish pub and a little bit of what I know about Atlantic City, but you and your husband Richard are born and raised in AC. Give us a little background on not only the pub, but the AC you know.
Yes, yes. We're both born and raised in Atlantic City, and actually, the building, the Irish Pub, actually was established built in 1903, and it has been a pub and a hotel ever since that time. And it has such a colorful history. It's amazing. I went back. I did a lot of research because with the popularity of Boardwalk Hall, everybody in the world was claiming to be a speakeasy. And of course, being from here, we knew a lot of those claims were not true. So I have to document actual articles from the Atlantic City Press that go back from the day the doors opened here back in 1903, all throughout the Prohibition era. And gosh, it was a colorful time because, everyone knew at that time Atlantic City was considered an open town. I mean, the independent bars. And it was the clergy actually that went after them and wanted prohibition enforced. And that created a lot of colorful people during that era, the Nucky Johnson era and so forth.
Well, the last time I was at the pub, I was there with my buddy Brandon and my buddy Jim, who was the announcer on The Price is Right Live. And you were kind enough to give us a behind-the-scenes tour and show us the old hidden hallways and staircases. We could see what an honest-to-goodness speakeasy really looked like. You've been able to preserve all of that.
And it is. It's interesting because you go down another hall, which I'll show you your next trip. I'll take you on a tour. And if you look up at the ceiling, there's a stairway that leads to like nothing. It's like a trap. It's like a trap door above your head.
Wow.
And you push it up, and then you enter the hotel, and then you go down another series of steps, and it brings you into what was then the speakeasy. And it's just great because it's so colorful and the people of that time are so colorful. I have hanging in the pub an article from the New York Times from September 4th during Prohibition in the 20s, an article that talks about the federal agents that came in while the patrons were drinking, and they confiscated all the liquor, and then they went down the ocean and they threw it up in the ocean. And the patrons went after the federal agents, and they started a fisticuffs, as they said in the paper, a fisticuffs. And they recovered all the liquor and brought it back to the pub. So it's just a lot of colorful people. I can see why Boardwalk Empire was such a hit with people because it just brought back the history.
Well, the first time I visited the pub, one of the stagehands at the theater, I want to say we were performing at the old Showboat Casino. That's where we started there. And I remember the stagehand saying, well, Todd, after the show, you have to go to the Irish pub. I mean, it's open 24/7. And as of that time, you had never locked the doors of the Irish. It was always open, and it was that way until the pandemic, right? It was COVID that pretty much...
it was COVID that mandated those the closing hours. That was the first time we ever had a lock on the front door. Wow. We never had a lock. It was always open. Now, of course, it's not locked because we're open 24 hours. We're back to our original schedule. But I'll never forget that. I will never forget March 16th of that year that we were mandated, as were, most of the businesses in the country.
Yeah.
to to close at 8 o'clock p.m.
Oof.
And I thought, man, I know there are other historical events that probably could rival the fact that we put a lock on the front door. But for me, it was very significant when we put the lock on that front door. First time ever.
But in addition to the history of the building and everything that those walls have seen, there's something uniquely charming and very, very special about the Irish pub. To me, it's walking in and the bartender remembering what you drink.
Absolutely.
Seeing you walking around, the way you and your husband sit down at people's tables and just
Right.
talk to them, various characters, because AC still has its fair share of characters, no doubt about
Oh,
that.
absolutely. Well, Todd, back in the 80s, Atlantic City was the boxing capital of the world. I mean, there's no question. I mean, we had all the title fights here, all the big championship fights, and that brought to town the biggest, the best, the most recognized writers, sports writers from all over the country, and a lot from Europe. And these people, when you talk about the characters and people congregating at the pub, Bud Schulberg was a great boxing writer, but he also wrote on the waterfront. 9 Academy Awards at one. Oh, the biggest and the best. And the funniest thing is, of course, their accommodations were 5-star, all the casinos and with all the technology in the world that they needed. But when they arrived in town, they came here to the Irish pub to stay in the hotel.
Huh.
Now, our hotel is beautiful. It's an inn, built in 1903, a lot of nostalgia. And it has the ingredient which you just spoke about, unlike the more contemporary places.
Sure.
And they would have their rooms, they would get their key, and when their press people would call and say, "We're waiting for you. Your accommodations are here. I'm staying at the pub. You want to see me? You can see me at the pub. Otherwise, I'll see you at 10 o'clock in the press room." And that went for.
Well, I get it. I understand why. And if I'm being completely transparent with you, Cathy, the Irish pub was one of a very few inspirations for the book, Chug Chow, the goal of which is to introduce people across the country to places like yours. Once you visited the Irish pub, it is a part of you. It's a part of me and my family. Every time I visited for the past 2 decades, you send me home with an Irish pub hoodie. All 3 of the kids have them.
Absolutely.
And we wear them with pride, because even my kids know that the place means something.
Oh, I'm so glad.
And I guess we're kind of in good company because those Irish pub T-shirts and hoodies have popped up here and there. Jeremy Renner has been spotted in his. I think Willie Nelson wears his more than I wear mine.
Well, Willie Nelson actually had 3 #1 hits with his, when I say most recent albums, I'd say over the period of the past 10 years. And in each one, he was wearing an Irish pub shirt. While he had one with Snoop Dogg, where he was wearing, and then Merle Haggard, and then one by himself, which the title of it was, "I woke up still not dead again today." So, people see that and they're fascinated. But imagine if you were to walk into the pub for lunch, you sit down and then you glance over, and this goes back to the late 80s up until the late 90s. And looking over and seeing at the table next to you, Joe DiMaggio sitting down having his lunch. Joe stayed upstairs when he visited Atlantic City. He was a great friend of my husband, Richard.
Mm-hmm.
And he would come in and he would sit on the porch and he'd drink his beverage, his coffee, whatever. He'd read his newspaper. And people, and it was like, but that's Joe D. I can't believe it. Before you knew it, there'd be a long, long line. People would run home or whatever and get a baseball and say, "Hey, Joe, do you think you could sign it?" He never refused.
Wow.
And I would even say to someone, that would be waiting there, I'd say, well, just wait till he finishes his meal. And Joe said, no, that's okay. I don't want them to think I'm snooty. I said, okay, okay. He was the most gracious, wonderful person that really appreciated the fact that people, looked up to him.
There's remarkable Joe DiMaggio memorabilia all over your walls there.
Well, our walls are dedicated. We have one whole wall that's dedicated to Joe, and they're precious to us because he, personally signed them to us and talked about his wonderful time staying at the Irish pub. So,
Cathy, all this talk, I mean it when I say I am dying to see your face, to pick you up, to hug you, to get back there, to do the show.
Telling everybody's so excited that you're coming back. And when you're in town, it's just so exciting. And the show, oh my God, everybody. I just wish you could see the people's expressions and hear their voices when I tell them you're coming back with the show, because that, thanks to you, it's such an enduring show, and it brings so many people to Atlantic City, which I love because it brings them to the Irish pub.
Well, I love being an ambassador for the Irish pub, and I love being an ambassador for AC. It's just got so much heart. Cathy, before I let you go, would you please share the story that you shared with me, 10 years ago now? I remember it was about 2 a.m, and I was having a plate of fish and chips with my friend Monica, who was one of the Vixen dancers from the Wild West casino there. And you sat down and joined us, recommended an incredible dessert, by the way, and you told me a story about George Carlin. Do you remember that?
Oh, yes. The first year George Carlin came to town was in 1981, and I've always been an avid fan. And when I saw that he was coming to town, I got so excited. I thought, this is great. I'm going to bring a T-shirt and write a note and send it back with security and, invite him to the Irish pub. So I did that, and I knew the security guard. It's the Irish pub at Atlantic City. He's a patron. So he said, "Do you want me to see if you can meet with him?" I said, "Gosh, would be wonderful." So we go back. George is in his dressing room. We say, "Come on in, guys. Come on in, guys." So I gave him the T-shirt, and we spoke with him. What a gentleman! Well, that started a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful friendship with all of us, and he came back every single year. Whenever he was in town, he would come in, always, every day of his visit. He was genuinely a genius with comedy.
And he always sat in the same spot, did he not?
He liked the Prohibition room,
right?
Because he would like to make notes about whatever his events, whatever he was writing about. I'm sure it was his material, for future shows. So he was sitting there eating his turkey sandwich, drinking an O'Doul's, and he's minding his own business. And right in front of him is the bar section where 2 couples came in. They sat down, and they didn't see George behind them. And the bartender saying, "Hey, it's great to see you. Are you in town for anything special?" "Oh, yeah. We came in to see George Carlin show." And and the bartender said, "Oh, yeah, everybody loves him, whatever." And the one guy said to his friend, "Yeah, what time is the show?" And George jumps up and says, 9:00. So they turn around and they're there. Oh my God, I can't believe it.
Where else would that happen?
That's a long-winded answer to what you said, your wonderful comment about
I could
what
listen
makes the
to
Irish
your
pub
stories.
special.
Hey, some people say Disneyland is the happiest place on earth. I say it's the Irish pub in Atlantic City.
I'll close with this. We were having a gentleman who wrote the book was writing a book about Monopoly. When they had their anniversary, was staying here. And he gave me one of my favorite compliments. He said, "I stayed at the Irish pub, absolutely loved it. It was like living on the set of The Little Rascals."
Cathy Burke, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for making me feel so at home at your place.
We love you. Oh, everyone loves you. And I thank you because you're special, you're magical. And thank you for the wonderful show. Everybody loves it. And thank you for, there's some things that disappear, but thanks to you, we have you and your wonderful show, and we all look forward to
I'll
it.
see you before the end of the year, I promise you.
We'll see you in a few months.
You know, on those occasions, frequent occasions, when I reminisce about late nights and early mornings in AC, once in a while someone will say, the city's seen better days. Isn't it outdated? And I respond the same way every time. I say, no, 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 my friend. The city upon which the game Monopoly is based isn't outdated at all. In fact, it's proud of where it's been. And you know what? The beauty of Atlantic City is it has no plans of going anywhere. I want to thank you for joining me on this delicious adventure, Chug Chow. If you enjoyed the episode, please do subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening to us right now and write us a little review. Tell us what you loved about that conversation with Cathy Burke of the Irish Pub, and share the show with your fellow watering hole explorers. And if you'd like to bring even more flavor to your journeys, order a copy of my book, Chug Chow, The Tattooed Traveler's 50 Favorite Dive Bars and Food Joints Across America. It's available on Amazon and at chugandchow.com. Every purchase helps us provide 10 meals for families in need. Your appetite for adventure can make a real difference. Until next time, I'm Todd Newton. Keep chugging, keep chowing, and keep discovering the stories behind every plate and every pint.
Chug Chow is produced by the host with the most LLC. All rights reserved.